I would request a move that the live stream be suspended for this proceeding, so as to allow Ms. Walker to more directly address the court. I suppose it causes her a lot of hesitation to know that it'll be written up on Facebook and everywhere else by some of the folks that do that.
That's part of the consequence of this. This is a public matter.
We agree that everyone should have a second chance and don't want to make a video of someone at their lowest point. But when you hear this story, you won't believe it. Danielle Walker was arrested and charged with OWI third offense. She failed to appear for her arraignment on May 1st. Her attorney waived her arraignment on May 8th. A pre-exam was set for May 23rd, where she entered a plea of guilty to the reduced charge of OWI second offense. Judge Middleton ordered a pre-sentence report and sentencing was scheduled for June 21st. Let's jump into the June 21st hearing and let the video tell you the rest.
Yeah.
All right, we are on the record and we'll address this matter. People versus Danielle Marie Walker, file 23666FD. Ms. Walker is here with her attorney, Mr. Ross Truckee. She was charged with operating while intoxicated as a third offense, a felony. The matter was reduced to operating while intoxicated second offense. The matter was set for sentencing today. Ms. Walker is here. Mr. Truckee is here. Autumn Kiefer is here. Deborah Davis could not be here. And she sent an email earlier in the week. She's trying a case up in circuit court and gave her thoughts. So Ross, let's start with you.
Well, first I would request a move that the live stream be suspended for this proceeding, so as to allow Ms. Walker to more directly address the court. I suppose it causes her a lot of hesitation to know that it'll be written up on Facebook and everywhere else by some of the folks that do that.
That's part of the consequence of this. This is a public matter. I'm disappointed. You showed up this morning looking like you're ready to mow the lawn or something. Dressed very casually for a court proceeding in short shorts and a t-shirt. And I felt bad as soon as I saw you come in. It's like you're not giving this the gravity that it deserves. I'm no fashionista, but no, that's part of the consequence. So thank you, but it is being live streamed. It may temper what you have to say.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. So as to allocution, Ms. Walker, well, I've reviewed the prosecutor's submission as well, and there's a lot of past there. But I think if Your Honor reviews the dates, it kind of develops a little bit of a pattern. We see that 2018, 19, 20, you know, that kind of gap just immediately pre-COVID was really disastrous for Ms. Walker's health, well-being, excuse me, mental health, family status. Basically everything went to hell in a handbasket for her in that few-year period. She picked up a couple of these charges fairly back to back. It was an absolute low point in her existence. She came through here, worked the program. I think there was maybe some kind of confusion at the very end of sobriety court, but I think she was a fairly successful sobriety court attendee. And since then, you haven't seen her for a bit, and a relapse happened. And as Your Honor is well aware, relapses happen. And when they do, they often have more significant consequences than the routine of substance abuse. You go back to the bar for the first time in a couple of years and you think you can drink like you drank before. You can't. And Miss Walker doesn't have a recollection of leaving the Tomahawk. She doesn't have a recollection of maybe the last portion of her time at the Tomahawk that night. The relapse hit her much worse than maybe she would have hoped. She did take accountability for this. She pled immediately. She didn't dicker around with suppressive motions or anything like that. She admits that her behavior the night of the arrest was reprehensible with the police officers and so on. She did make a call to one of the officers at a later date once she'd sobered up and apologized. She left a voicemail with him to apologize for what was obviously not who she wants to be. In my experience with Miss Walker, she's just very clear about, I think the word "this was stupid" was used. I mean, that phrase was used a lot. She's absolutely terrified that her children are going to be negatively impacted by this. She's got an 11-year-old and a 2-year-old. One of them has some special needs with school that right about the time of this incident, she had been working with the school staff to accommodate. And in the prosecution's letter, they delve into her past, and I'd like to just delve a little farther. Miss Walker's not had a family that supports her in any way that's healthy. She has a sister who's an intravenous drug user, and 3 of who's a regular, has regularly appeared either in this court or in police reports that I've reviewed. Her brother died of an overdose in 2019.
Heartbreaker.
Father had served a prison term when she was young. Her mother's an alcoholic. And as your honor is aware, one of the incidents in the past was related to her mother and that relationship falling apart during that same low point. So I would ask the court to recognize that Ms. Walker is a person that has the will to succeed and the drive to succeed, and needs a little bit more than the average bear. She needs a little bit more help getting out of the pit that she's been in since birth. So I would ask you.
Well, that's why I've been troubled about this. That's sobriety court. She doesn't want to do sobriety court. That's the little bit more help I have. I got to know her quite well and liked her. She didn't finish sobriety court, and I'm aware of all the things you said. She had very little family support. She had some support from some people who maybe had too much control over her life, but she so we didn't finish sobriety court. We took her out and put her on another probation, and I don't think she exactly got to the finish line in that one either, but she quit drinking. And she wrote me a wonderful letter expressing how she was doing, and I shared it with the people in sobriety court. And I find that you can often help yourself by helping somebody else, which she was doing. But she went out in flames on this night. And as you can see, Miss Davis is not very happy about it at all. So she needs something extra, but she doesn't want it. So that's why I've been dreading this. I kind of hoped this would land on Judge Pattison, but it didn't, and I got it and I accept it. So I don't know what to do.
I do have one point on the recommendations of the agent. If jail time is instituted, if the possibility of scheduled jail time could exist, as she is the primary caregiver for her children.
Which is always the question, what did you think was going to happen today? This is the sentencing day. Have you made any provision for your kids if you have to go to jail?
Yeah, I've thought about it. But
I mean, if you don't come home today, where are your kids right now?
my youngest is with his dad
And where's your oldest son?
at home
By himself?
with my friend.
All right. We'll hear from you in a minute, but that's also disappointing. Autumn says in a report, or Debbie says in the last paragraph, despite what appears to be an obvious problem with alcohol, defendant doesn't feel she doesn't need probation. She doesn't want to lose her job by going to jail. She doesn't have a great history of paying her fines and costs. She's been threatened with hefty amounts of jail before, 90 days in Indiana, 90 days here. That didn't deter her from drinking and driving for the third time in the 4 years where she was caught. She said she needs to be there for her sons and wants to keep her one son in martial arts. She doesn't seem to grasp the impact that her consumption of alcohol is likely having on these children. Having kids is not a get out of jail free card. And if she doesn't want to put in the work to have sustained sobriety, she's going to end up hurting herself or her kids. Her exceedingly high BAC for each of her OUI incidents is troublesome and indicates she is truly not have a period of sobriety as she's able to get her BAC into high ranges without blacking out or getting ill. So she's suspicious that you've been sober for all this time, but we'll take that as it is. In this matter, defendant was driving while highly intoxicated on 4/8 of 23, where she observed by 2 Michigan State police troopers. She said there's never a cop there when you need one. You were doing this right in front of the troopers, who often take Fawn River Road. She veered off the road, nearly striking a tree before returning to the roadway just as it passed the troopers before 1 a.m. She did not perform well on the field sobriety test and refused to submit to a PBT. She refused to submit to a chemical test and asked what her specific response was, and she would submit. Her response was, "Fuck you." She wanted that quoted in the trooper's report. Defendant was obnoxious, rude, and despite having a warrant issued for her blood, she refused to cooperate with the medical staff. She repeatedly refused to cooperate and yanked her arm away while the needle was in her arm. Her blood alcohol came back at 0.235, which was approximately an hour and a half after she was observed driving. And again, shame on Applebee's from earlier today, letting that defendant drive out of there while she was barely competent. She passed out in the middle of the street. Shame on Tomahawk for serving you all this liquor and letting you drive away from there. I've been on their case a little bit, but they should be ashamed of themselves. Ms. Davis says, with all this in mind, I would recommend a substantial jail commitment followed by a 24-month probation. This would hopefully be enough to deter her from consuming alcohol long enough that she can get a sustained period of sobriety under her belt. The idea is to increase the penalties the more time someone breaks the law, which would indicate it would be a sentence of more than 90 days. So she says, we recommend more than 90 days. Having kids isn't a get out of jail free card. And you were horrible to the troopers, the hospital staff. And this was your third offense. And saying, I'm sorry, isn't a solution to that. Autumn's recommendation, as you saw, was a probation with some upfront jail. And you've come here making zero provision to do anything with your kids if you did have to go to jail. Autumn, we'll hear from you and then we'll hear from Danielle.
These are horrible case facts. It was very upsetting to see Miss Walker come across all of our dockets when this incident occurred. Her blood alcohol in this incident was a 235. In February of 2019, that incident was at 0.299. I'm unable this morning to find the blood alcohol from LaGrange County. She's got 3 within 4 years. She tells me that she's been sober for the past few years. I'm not so sure. She tells me that when her sons do go to their fathers, which is not on the regular, she doesn't know, she isn't sure what to do. My guess is she's staying at home and drinking. She lives in Bronson. She works in Sturgis. Night of the incident, she isn't sure why she called the ex-boyfriend, buy him a drink for his birthday, but she did, and here we are.
Well, that
doesn't-
relationship with Daryl was not very healthy. Back in 18, she had that whole incident was with him.
Correct. She's gonna lose her license. My fear is she's gonna continue driving. She doesn't have anybody else. The boys' fathers don't have their licenses either. She stated it was due to alcohol related as well. She needs jail. Frankly, I think this should have been held the line on a felony case and she should be sitting in front of Judge Stutzman. She has addictions. I understand that she's going to battle that addiction for the rest of her life, but there are consequences for your actions and they should increase the more you do the same exact thing. She's been in treatment. She's been on probations. She says she won't be able to get to testing. You know, she's not financially sound. She doesn't get any help. She's working part-time. My hands are tied. I'm going to stand behind my recommendation as I feel it's the best thing for not just for herself, but for her children.
All right, Danielle, you've heard what everybody else had to say. And I know you're concerned about this being on a live stream, which may temper what you want to say. But with that in mind, what do you want to tell me?
I don't know what to say.
What do you think I should do?
I don't know.
Well, you don't want probation.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, you don't want sobriety court.
I can't afford sobriety court.
Yeah, if I could just clear that point a little bit. The issue is understanding it is an important commitment, but the time commitment and the monetary commitment and without a license being able to attend.
It is certainly, I'll concede that. And she's comes from a place of knowledge because she did it. So we took her out of sobriety court. She relapsed a couple times while she was on regular probation in March of 20.
I wasn't on probation then.
Yes, you were. You were put on probation. We had a probation violation hearing. And then you admitted to the probation violation. I gave you 2 days in jail in March of 2020. The sobriety court probation that morphed into regular probation with less
For my
requirements.
drop.
So then in June, we just let you go. So you were drinking in February probably, and then in June, we just said, all right, I guess we've gone as far as we're gonna go. And you held it together for a while. Autumn has some suspicion that you were still drinking. I can't say, because you went from 0 to 120 on this day. If you weren't drinking, and that's a tenet of alcoholism. You can't have the first drink. And I've told the story about some famous people, Elizabeth Vargas, Jeff Daniels, other people that are famous and struggle with alcohol, and they had the first drink and that was right back to the bottom of the pit. They're both now in long-term recovery. But you went from, if it is this, you called Daryl up and you had a tumultuous relationship with him, and you went to the Tomahawk, and it was like you were in a time warp back to 2019 and doing all the self-destructive things that got you in trouble in the first place. And then they let you walk out of that bar. Where was he? Where was Daryl?
I don't know.
Because the same thing, the other lady has no memory of after
No,
certain drinks.
it's because I don't drink.
She was a 0.19 and she passed out in the middle of an intersection with the car and drive. but you were out there. All right. So we're unanimous. Nobody knows what to do here. Is there anything else you want to say?
Sobriety court. I can't afford it.
It's a.
However, if it's going to lessen my jail, well, people wanting me to go to jail, which isn't going to help. Is that a possibility?
That's not a good enough reason.
No.
I want to do sobriety court because I want to get sober. Everybody wants to do sobriety court because they don't want to go to jail. So no, that's not a very
That's not what I
enthusiastic
meant, though.
endorsement.
That's not what I meant, because jail is going to take money out of my bills and my kids.
Yes. Well, somehow you put that on me. That's not my
No,
fault. I
no,
mean, you
No,
screwed up royally and there's a
No,
consequence. So I
that's
say, well,
not-
sorry, this is hard on your
my lawyer
kids.
and I discussed it.
Okay. I'm glad you're still here. That you're not somebody I'm reading about in the newspaper like your brother. But see what I can do. I'm gonna do a 24-month probation. I'm gonna put the oversight fees in here, but I may be willing to waive them. $960. I can waive the fine, which is somewhat unusual. $75 crime victims' rights fee, $50 state minimum fee, a $100 screening fee, $150 attorney fee, and a police reimbursement for all the rigmarole of the hospital for $200. $25,000 PR bond. One-day credit. I'm gonna follow Autumn's recommendation. 360 days jail, credit one, leaving 359 days to do. Of the 359, 329 are deferred, which leaves 60 to do. Which starts tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
So I'm going to jail tomorrow?
You're going to jail tomorrow for 60 days. I'm gonna give you the day to get your situation straightened out with your kids. You're on probation. No alcohol, no controlled substances. Substance abuse counseling and treatment is directed. No medical marijuana. I don't know whether you were doing THC or CBD in addition to the alcohol, but whatever it wasn't a very good combination. 75 plus 50
Somewhere.
plus 100 plus 150 plus 960
So it's gonna be
plus 200 is
Are you
1410.
serious?
What's the question?
I just advised her that you've made your ruling in your orders.
I did. Do you want to go to jail right now? I'm concerned about you harming yourself or something else. But you've made no provision for your son. And it starts tomorrow. Are you kidding me? I mean, what did you think was gonna
I
happen?
didn't think.
You don't have an answer. They don't have an answer. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to do probation. I still have unpaid fines and costs. My life's a mess. My kids are at risk. I nearly killed myself and a couple of state police troopers. I was a total horse's ass to the police and the hospital staff. And I said, I'm sorry. Well, that ain't good enough. And your sobriety court at the last minute about broke my heart, because that's a recipe for failure. So yeah, you're going to jail tomorrow at 7 o'clock. And you got 1 year to pay that. I already waived the fine. I could subsequently waive the probation oversight fee. We'll see how that goes. But yes, there's a consequence. And this was it. And nobody had a good answer. And the person who's got to decide what the answer is me. That's why I make $9 an hour. So you go downstairs with Autumn.
Actually, I'll just talk to her in district court. I'll have to give her a copy of that judgment.
All right. I want you to be at the jail tomorrow at 7 p.m. There will be good time calculated into that 60 days, which would make it about 50. But we'll go with your probation agent. You're good to go.
Several days later.
Danielle Walker is not here, and I'm not very happy about this. She might just be late. This is file 23666FD, Danielle Marie Walker, charged with operating while intoxicated, third offense. She was convicted of second offense and sentenced to a jail term. For reasons we don't need to get into here, the jail department screwed up royally and let her out of jail. And we haven't seen her since. They somehow determined they thought she was doing weekends and they let her out and she left and she hasn't come back since. And she's been in multiple contact with Autumn Kiefer. There is an open bench warrant for her arrest right now. And she's not here. Yes?
Alyssa called and said that Ridge Morrison's gonna be about 15 to 20 minutes late.
All right.
It's 10 o'clock.
Okay,
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
thanks. Have you had any recent contact with her, Mr. Truckee?
I've not had contact with her since, I think she didn't appear at a date you had set for her to report. I filed this motion originally hoping to have it heard before she reported, just to get those 2 days credited to her sentence so that it was accurate.
Well, they certainly would be, but defendant failed to appear, has open bench warrant. I'm very unhappy about this. We use the same judgment we've used for the last 20 years. So they misread it. And then instead of calling somebody to ask what was going on, they just let her out. And then and then I can't get anybody to go serve the warrant. So she's failed to appear. I'm not going to address the motion, but obviously she would get credit for time she had served.
And my motion was seeking credit for time she spent at Liberty erroneously.
Well, I'm not going to address it without
Okay,
her. I'm going to see if I can get somebody to serve this warrant. She was unhappy about the sentence. She got out and she knows she's got a warrant for her. I don't even know where she is. Now she's on probation. I'm inclined to alter her probation and lengthen the jail sentence, like to 365 days. She needs to get in here. Autumn was very unhappy about this.
Well, and I kind of have some issue with the commencement of her probation sentence, because had this gone the right way, she would be in jail.
Right.
She wouldn't have started her probation. She wouldn't have been released to start probation. So I think there's just a lot of kind of process issues here that we need to get sorted once she's.
I don't disagree with that, but we need to have her here before we can deal with it.
Understood.
All right, before we can deal with these issues.
Well, the other issue is my appointment. My duty ended at sentencing. And I'm kind of tagging along here just.
Yes, once the sentence is imposed, your lawful obligation to continue your representation is ended. And you were willing to go the extra mile on this case to help this girl, even though you had no lawful obligation to do that. So I do appreciate that. But we need to get her in here, and now she's blowing you off too, so.
And I guess should my expectation be to, if she is captured.
Then I'll schedule your hearing for a
Schedule
motion.
me and we'll do it. Thank you.